where is that shift coming from? Is it out of necessity, or is it out of just a desire to change somebody's lifestyle?
I think most probably it is a mix. My perspective is it's a mix. From all the points you were touching on. I think number one is a home ownership definitely gets more. You're getting much less for the dollar than you would have gotten a year ago, right? So prices are changing, land is, cost is going up. So that is, driven by, by the market we are in. A lot depends most probably also on location, on the search for finding great people. Companies also are looking to figure out other alternatives to bring people in. So as I said, having an apartment, having something nice in the middle where people they want to hire wanted to live. Is a big plus. I could see even some corporation considering in investing in some places so that they have the space for the people they need. So I think there's a lot of different concepts and ideas in the mix, and I think all of them are relevant depending on the target audience.
Welcome to the Uncensored Real Estate Podcast, where nothing is off limits. If you're interested in buying, selling, or investing in real estate, and you want to learn some of the insider secrets and uncensored truths from the true professionals in and around real estate, you've come to the right place. Now, let's buckle up for the uncensored truth about real estate and join your host, Brian Cardenas.
All right, everybody, welcome to the next episode of the Uncensored Real Estate Podcast. Thanks for joining us. If you are watching on YouTube, please make sure that you subscribe and hit that notification button so you find out when we drop our next episode. And if you are watching or not watching, if you are listening on your favorite podcast platform, please make sure that you give us a 5-star rating and share the episode with your friends and family so that they can get the benefit, all this great information that our guests are bringing to us each week. And today we've got a special guest coming to us from, are you in Atlanta now?
I am in Atlanta right now.
Right now, yeah, you're a world traveler. We have Barbara Heil-Sonneck with Design to Sell. Barbara, thank you very much for joining us today.
I appreciate it. I am so glad to be here.
And you just got back. You just mentioned that you were in New York, right?
Absolutely. And number one, always inspiration. Number two, I love to travel. So absolutely, yes.
Well, when you can wrap up travel and your work and gain inspiration out of it, it's always a good thing.
Yes, it is. It is. And New York definitely is an amazing place, for that.
Yeah, absolutely. So if we could maybe give us a little bit of your backstory. How did you end up where you are today? What have you gone through different iterations in your career?
Yeah, love to do that. And, welcome everybody. And, you might wonder where this amazing accent is coming from. And as I wanted to share, I'm a very Southern girl.
Yeah, for sure. That's what
Southern
everybody
Germany
thought.
it is, right? Southern Germany it is. So we, born and raised there, worked in smaller, large and Fortune 500 companies. That actually was what brought me here into the US. And after a certain amount of time and finding my Mr. Right and having a young son, I decided that the corporate world and that traveling at that point in time was not suiting our family very well. So I ventured out into, to new opportunities, and I started with investing in real estate. I flipped a couple of houses. And at a certain point, I started to really find a passion for increased return of investment by utilizing design features as well as staging. At that point in time, most of the people did not know what home staging is. Really pretty much, increased increasing the value of the property, utilizing lifestyle. That's at the end what it is. And we're talking about attracting potential buyers. That's what in the development industry in regards to model homes had been implemented already over years. Now that model and that concept then was brought into the broader market of real estate. So started design to sell and worked originally more with home flippers, the same area I was coming in. And then, we grew that company, and it is now one of the top 10 staging companies in the US, voted by our peers. And I have an amazing team who's running the day-to-day operation. Whole goal is, the highest ROI for your property. And I think to put a couple of numbers out there, it's 90-10.
Wow.
Only 10% of the population really have the vision and the eye to really understand how something can or could look. And 90% cannot. So for 90%, what they see is what they get, because that visualization of 3-dimension is not possible for them. And that's very important to understand as we're putting a product on the market.
Now, are you primarily working with like home sellers that are selling their home? Or are you still working with flippers, or is it more institutional clients that are doing large scale stuff? What is the primary clientele for you?
Our primary clientele are repeat clients. So we're working with, the top 20% of agents in our market, and also with home builders and or also with investors. Not as much the quick flips. We have, pulled ourselves a little bit more into the medium and luxury market. So that's that's our primary client. In that business, it is a very logistical driven business. It is important that you have the right product for the right target audience.
Now, you must maintain a pretty healthy supply of furnishings and arts and different things like that. So I would have to imagine that you've got to be very cognizant of the geographic location of your clientele in relationship to where your warehouse is at, right?
Absolutely. Again, it's about, you have to always put everything in consideration, that the drive time to the project and back. And for us, since our inventory is primarily leased and or rented out until a property sells, it has to make sense. So yes, it wouldn't make sense for us, from Atlanta to drive to Miami for one installation. So that would not work out. However, that type of concept can happen when you're talking about furnishing short-term rentals, or so that could be an opportunity, but not for the standard scope of home staging. So we're running roughly approximately, like you can imagine, we're running roughly about $1.5 million on retail value in product at any given time.
So you mentioned the short-term rentals. That's not something that I had thought of for your business. Tell me, how does that work for an owner of a short-term rental to do that, as opposed to investing in, purchasing the furnishings and decorations?
What we know is, and the skill set we're bringing in, is that our target audience was always, the potential buyer. So pretty much this is a little bit different than the typical home staging and rent concept. Working with short-term rentals, we are really utilizing inventory and furnishing the house for sale. We have an option, to have like a mixed concept, because a lot of but that only can be done local, because our inventory is never really used, but it is slightly used, to have like a mixed calculation in utilizing some of our inventory mixed with new inventory to provide a good product for an investor.
So for the typical home seller, whether it's a flipper or just a homeowner that's trying to sell their home. I think in the last couple of years, they didn't have much of a need. Well, first of all, they probably weren't out of their house before selling it. It was so easy to sell a house. In that kind of a market where sellers had held really all of the cards in the game, and they were able to list a house and get it sold in a matter of hours or days, and they probably didn't have to vacate the property beforehand. Now it's switched over to a market where houses are having to stay on the market for a little while, and people may still be occupying them. How can you advise people? Like, what's the best advice you would give to people in terms of maximizing the return? Because obviously when they've got their house full of their stuff and their personal belongings and the clutter that we all accumulate, that drags down the potential value. What would you advise people to do? Is it best for them to move somewhere temporarily to be able to stage it, maximize the value? I mean, how would you coach somebody through that decision-making process?
Well, and the answer, unfortunately, is it all depends on the situation, the condition the house is in, and the inventory available in that property. And when we're talking about staging, it does not always have to be a complete vacant product. There are opportunities to to have like a combined situation, but there are situations where it might make most sense to really, really move out for the highest return of investment. Inventory has paint and inventory has a huge impact on how any property is perceived. Right now, normally, I'm sitting in, a different environment. Today, the location I am, you have pretty much, like you can see behind me, a very blank canvas. A blank canvas really does not tell a story. It is a space where imagination has to happen to create something, and that something is that product at the end, which is sold. The interesting part when we're going back to the example of the model home is that, most likely the majority of people would love to buy the model home. They see the other product, but they are always tending to go back to the model home because the perceived value of that product is so much higher than the blank canvas. And that's really the same concept. Can give you an example of properties, and specifically if they have been, if they had been developed, 20, 30 years ago, and the design and the inventory might have been purchased at the same time. Trends are constantly changing, and it automatically dates a product. So if nothing has happened, the value of that property already is decreasing. Second part is what we have to understand in our market today is people really want to move into a move-in ready product. The majority of people really don't have the desire. And sometimes it is also a budget situation that they do not want to invest in a huge remodel. That market was different 20 years ago, right? People love to do everything. Sure. Now it has completely switched and changed. So going back to your question, what are the top 3 advice? Number 1, when you're living in your space, less is more. Really try to get and start to pre-pack. It's a simple way, certain things have to happen no matter what. So if that is the plan, start early enough to take really the stress out of it. So a lot, first it's chaos because before it becomes beautiful again, because a lot of inventory is hidden in closets and in other spaces. So that's the first part, preparing for the move. And from an efficiency concept, I hate to touch things, 2 or 3 times. So there are the 3 different areas: the things you keep, the things you get rid of, and the things you might want to donate. That's a good concept and definitely something to see. Another tip, number 2, is really take your camera out and take a picture of the space. It's very interesting. Our eyes are actually much more forgiving than the camera. So the camera really shows space in a completely different way. So by taking a picture of the space, you already can see in a way which separates you personally from the space of what sticks out and what should be removed. So
That's a great piece of advice.
that's another good good tip. So we have that saying, clutter eats equity. So really reducing inventory really enhances it. What we want to sell is a lifestyle in a space, people understanding what the space is for, how it can be utilized, but also creating an emotional connection. And as more as we can accomplish that room by room, as better it is. The third major point would be neutralization, which talks about taking, strong colors out, strong statements, which are maybe a little bit more personal, which then includes painting, rooms who either really need it from a refresh perspective, and or for sure the rooms who have a very unique color or unique presence.
Yeah, those are really good tips. And I just hearing you talk about it, it kind of makes me wonder, do real estate agents give the type of valuable advice that you're giving consistently to their clientele? I know talking to realtors, sometimes it's a bit of a touchy subject for them when they have to tell, the homeowners who love their home, think it's valuable, they love the paint jobs that they've done and different things like that, that you need to make some changes in order to maximize the sale. Have you ever had anybody bring you in as an independent consultant and do that job for them?
I think this is really a wonderful strategy for every agent out there to really have a professional home stager on your power team. Right, Pat, is like it's all about having the great team and the power of great referrals around you,
Right.
which separates you. Some of our agents and real estate agents, they call us their secret weapon. I know that that the consultation sometimes has been, the little weight barrier between choosing and getting a contract signed after. So I know that from the personal experience and what our clients are telling about us, that had a major impact. It helps also to separate the different duties, right? There's so much on a professional real estate agent's plate that it makes sense to divide and conquer, and their core focus aligned with all of the marketing around that product, and also the negotiation of that deal at the end is where the highest and best comes to play. So the power team surrounding the successful agent helps them to really move quicker and focus what they can do best, and also frees up some time. On the other hand, it is separated that relationship, right? You already have to talk about all of the other elements in the deal. Now, as it relates to prepare the product home and make it a house, and really a product, and packaging it in the way that is a sellable product, that's kind of like best done by the experts surrounding you.
Yeah, it's always good to have people who are specializing in certain areas, because it's very difficult for anybody to be an expert in multiple different areas. And I think you definitely bring an expertise level in terms of design and vision. I imagine that in your real estate investing, that had to come in very handy when you're making renovations to a property and flipping and anything else that you do as well.
Absolutely, absolutely. And not everything, needs to be done. I remember some consultations where, you're talking to a client and they had an architectural background, and there were columns and there were other things, and they were thinking about all of the things they're planning to do to prepare the home for sale. But I was steering them really in a different direction, said, if that would be your personal house, that's a choice and makes absolutely sense. Also, I absolutely agree from an aesthetics, it would be nicer. However, if I assess from a buyer's perspective and the years of experience that we're bringing to the table, and our team touching roughly 7 houses a week, we suggest, we know this is selling right now. Paint, small enhancements, and investing in a couple of items, if that is neutral bedding, if that even is a couple of pieces of furniture, but it can make a difference. Artwork, right? Artwork is, if we're looking in a bedroom, changing some light fixtures, some lamps, neutral bedding, same in bathrooms. There are other tips which really help to increase the perceived value of every space.
Now, if someone is thinking about, either purchasing a home, or maybe they're looking to invest in real estate in whatever capacity, but they really lack that vision that you're talking about to be able to see beyond what's right in front of your eyes, and visualize what something could be, how can somebody best figure that out when it comes to an investment, or comes to maybe a house that they're looking at that hasn't been staged and maybe it's a little too cluttered? Like, should they just bring in an expert, and is somebody like you someone that would maybe prepare some things for them to be able to see visually, in 3D graphics that you can't maybe put into the property at that time because you're not the stager for the seller? I mean, how can you bridge that gap in terms of someone's ability to see past what's in front of them?
Number one is, pictures always speak more than 1,000 words, because whatever you say, people visualize a little bit different. So, showcasing that, and showcasing how it could be, definitely is a great opportunity. It all depends from a cost value perspective, what makes most sense. However, a good suggestion for anybody who's planning to sell is really going shopping. Specifically, what I'm saying about going shopping means look at other properties in your market who are up for sale, and assessing, for yourself where your property might, end up with. Question is always, do you want to be the competition, or do you want to sell the competition, right? Do you want to be the house people look at, but then they go on to the next? Or, do you want to be the house in that area who will be under contract first? Of course, it's not all, it is a combined effort. It's a power team of a successful professional staging company paired with an excellent realtor, which will make all the difference.
You want to buy a house, but high interest rates have got you down? Take the rate challenge and send us a verifiable loan estimate from another lender, and we'll beat it and pay for your appraisal up to $600. Here at Give Mortgage, being powered by UMortgage allows us to provide you with unmatched speed and efficiency and the best rates and fees in the market, all while delivering you the concierge level service you deserve. We want you to have an experience getting a mortgage that you'll never forget, and not because you got put through a meat grinder to get it. At Give Mortgage, we give great advice, we give the best rates, and we give back to charity. Visit us at www.give-mortgage.com or call us at 480-331-4684 to schedule a free consultation to see how we can help.
And so your business sounds very busy. Are you still doing house flipping, or what kind of investing are you doing?
Well, my investment has shifted, in the last years. So from running the company, and as I said, I'm running the company now. I am less out in the field with the clients. That is something the team is doing. I speak more, I educate, and I coach. From an investment perspective, I still continue to invest in houses, and we have invested in a couple of short-term rentals, but the main and core direction, me personally is investing in multifamily, and also utilizing and bringing in that skill into table passively as a limited partner, but also, being on some general partner teams in the future. So that is the direction, Barbara Heil-Sonneck is going.
Yeah, and I think that vision that you have can be very handy in terms of evaluating any project, whether it's multifamily or single family, and seeing what the possibilities are that exist, with a canvas that might be a little muddied up and not necessarily a blank canvas, and you can turn into something beautiful. What's appealing to you about the multifamily space in terms of investing?
Well, it is a wonderful add-on opportunity to consider to also create some passive income and have the opportunity later on also to have impact in communities. So that's, where I feel strongly there is a great opportunity out there. We have so many, as a business owner, you're often so busy in your day to day that, and you're looking for other ways to possibly invest and build wealth over time. So I see multifamily as a wonderful opportunity there to really bridge the information, the knowledge, bringing in from real estate and working in that field over time, but looking at an investment, in a whole different scenario. And I think the market, and we all know the stock market has, shifted a little bit in the last year. So looking at alternative investment seems to be, for me, to be also a very strategic move. And also coaching and educating others in, what to look for in this type of investments, so that, down the road, it supports the growth, of a company in different ways.
Yeah, and in the multifamily space, a lot of what investors are looking for is the opportunity to make something better, to improve a property, and that's how you improve the value of the property. And it's a little bit different in the multifamily space than it is in the single family space in terms of how a property is valued. But ultimately, if you improve it, you make it worth more money. And
Absolutely.
So when you're considering a property for a multifamily investment, I think some people may not really get that you don't want the best property. You want the property that you might be able to turn into a really nice property. Because when you find a new apartment complex or something like that, that's already either relatively new, doesn't need renovations, the rents are solid, there's not quite as much of a room for opportunity as there as an investor.
Absolutely, very well explained. Absolutely, that's the part, is there needs to be room, to room for improvement, so that rent increase is possible over time, but also enhancing the life of the people renting in that space, right? So it's a win-win that way, and also an impact on community.
So in what ways, when you're talking about the impact on communities, how do you see investing in apartments as a way that you can make an impact? Because you're about that as far as making an impact on others.
Absolutely. And again, I have a couple of ideas, all what I would like to see and implementing. Coming from Germany, you have much more people renting no matter what. And I think one thing everybody knows about the Germans, everything is clean, right? Orderly and clean and organized. I strongly believe that no matter where we live, the pride of home and a certain element and feel of ownership makes all of the difference. Because if people feel that, then they start caring. So that comes down that, there's no trash out there, that you feel safe in the environment. And that's a big goal. But the other part is also, how can you create and find opportunities so that people feel it is really also an investment. You have that in Germany because the people, even if they're renting, they're treating their house like it would be their own. They are painting, they're making enhancements, with the approval of the owner. So it's a whole different way, a whole different concept. So I was thinking, how could you implement a couple of these thoughts and concept in a different part? We have elements where a renter even, could invest in something, and as the property increases, when at a certain point they might leave and or certain things are changing, they could get a little payout. So there's concepts like that you can play around. It's trying to figure out what people really want and what they're looking for. I love the Disney concept because, every executive, if they walk a property, if they're around and there's a little piece of trash, it is picked up, right? Because that's the first start. If something, it's starting to pile up, and you definitely reduce that. So that's one part, a place where, people feel really home, and they have a certain way of say in what is happening, to the building. So small things, they don't have to be dramatic, and it only goes step by step. But I feel that's a way also as a business owner, we can make impact. We can drive change in other people's life for the positive.
What do you think it's such an interesting conversation to have about, the differences, because one of the things, in America, the idea is to own a piece of land, to own a home. I mean, that's kind of what the foundation of the country was built on. And in Germany, you said that, there's a lot more renters there, but there's a better pride of home ownership than we typically see in renters in the US. And so there's obviously some kind of a disconnect there. Why do you think in Germany, first of all, is there more pride in taking care of things? Are there some of those incentives that you're talking about, possibly having here? Is that what's in place there? I mean, what do you think drives that desire?
Well, I think some of that is cultural, and also, of course, affordability plays a major role here too. Sorry, I know I'm getting really lit up here, right? So let's see if I can. Yeah, that you can see me better. Sorry, I know my light here is not as good. So I feel there, there is not as many people who own. So I think that was coming over the years, right? You're right. America has a different, concept around ownership. But I feel certain things are a little bit shifting, and some people like the freedom of not having to take care, if that makes sense. They want to take care, but they don't want to own and be responsible for all of the repairs and the intense upkeep over time. They still want to take care of the space they are living in. So I think it's I see there's a little bit of shifting, and of course it depends on the location. And don't get me wrong, right? Ownership is still a final goal, but certain things might be delayed. So I think there's a little bit of shift, and people look at things a little bit different, and not only the younger, but also I think some of the retirees. As an example, for a while, my husband and I thought, okay, after we sold the last house, are we actually still want to buy and own, or are we renting and continue to invest differently? So I think there's a lot of concepts happening. Also, people like to be more flexible of where they go and what they do, which can drive certain changes.
Yeah, I think that you do hear some people talking about that idea that owning a home is a bad idea or a bad investment. And then, the other side of things is, it's one of the best investments and has built the most wealth for people of anything. And so you sort of have a disconnect there. And I wonder if the move that you're talking about for people to maybe be more interested in renting and have a little less financial responsibility that comes with ownership is driven by an organic cultural shift, or is it driven by large hedge funds and huge corporations that are getting into the business of buying single family homes and turning people into renters because they're buying up all the inventory? And it's, maybe people thinking, okay, well, it's very difficult to find a house and buy a house, and with the competition that's out there from these big entities that are buying them all up. I just wonder, like, where is that shift coming from? Is it out of necessity, or is it out of just a desire to change somebody's lifestyle?
I think most probably it is a mix. My perspective is it's a mix, from all the points you were touching on. I think, number one is, a home ownership definitely, gets more, you're getting much less for the dollar than you would have gotten a year ago, right? So prices are changing, land is, cost is going up. So that is, driven by, by the market we are in. a lot depends most probably also on location, on the search for finding great people. Companies also are looking to figure out other alternatives to bring people in. So as I said, having an apartment, having something nice in the middle where people they want to hire wanted to live, is a big plus. I could see even some corporation considering in investing in some places so that they have the space for the people they need. So I think there's a lot of different concepts and ideas in the mix, and I think all of them are relevant depending on the target audience and who is looking for what. No matter what, I strongly believe that investing in real estate, which has been proven over years, is still a great it's a great direction to go, with certain elements of diversification. And it doesn't mean that people should stop investing. The question is, we might look at it differently instead of building the wealth, purely by owning a product. And we also know that when we do it, sometimes we might even overinvest in it, right? We might not get the ROI back for selling because we over renovate or overdo certain things because it is for us personal. But maybe look at it, from a different ways and how you could, get in, and how, also tax write-offs. There are so many different things you can do when you're looking at it from an investor perspective versus purely from an ownership perspective.
And clear up maybe a myth for a lot of people when you're talking about being able to invest in apartments. It's not just the super wealthy that can do it, right?
No, absolutely not. I think you have absolutely the opportunity to, to invest, on a much smaller scale, because that's what the syndications really provide. And, in general, I would say, I think, $75,000 is a standard investment, but it could also be less because a group of more people could create their own LLC and together invest in a syndication. Of course, there are certain regulation and what and how things are done, like in other businesses as well. But there's definitely opportunity. And so only because the home ownership by itself might be not quite what can be done at that point in time from a person, investing definitely is a possibility.
Yeah, I think some people don't know that that's possible. They don't understand how do you invest. They think that big companies own all these apartment buildings. And you mentioned syndication, and for the people that don't understand what that is, it's really just bringing a group of people together as investors to be able to make that purchase. And like you mentioned, they're regulated, and the SEC is the one who regulates them, and it's done for the protection of people. Because if you think about it, let's say someone was thinking about buying a single family rental as an investment. Let's say it was a $500,000 house. A typical amount down is going to be about $100,000, plus you got some closing costs. Well, with $100,000 as an investor in a syndication for an apartment complex, most of the time, that's going to be an amount that'll probably allow you to get in. Not always, they're all unique, but you could get into an apartment complex that maybe has 20 units, maybe has 50 units, maybe has 100 units or more. And if you think about it from the investor standpoint, if you have one tenant and something goes wrong where the house is vacant for a month or longer, you very realistically could eat away all of your profit for an entire year by having one extended vacancy. But if you had 50 doors or 100 doors and you had even a 10% vacancy, which is a little high right now, that's not going to crush your profits. There's still profits there. And normally when people are looking at apartment investments, the returns on them, without giving any quotes or anything, they tend to be pretty good. They tend to be better than what people are getting in the stock market. Obviously, no guarantees of anything, but it just mitigates a lot of the risk when you have a lot of sources of money coming in as opposed to one source of money coming in, right?
Absolutely, beautifully explained. And I think part is, like, in my perspective and what I'm looking for ideally is a minimum of 36. At least, the coaches and all of the experts in that field, what I was hearing from all different sides, suggest that, because it allows you to also hire. It's like the turning point of the total investment. A property management company who helps you to take on the day-to-day operations. So
Right.
Something to keep in mind. But we love that. We just running here. Also, I'm co-hosting a multifamily group here in Atlanta. Where we bring people in and speakers to talk about that subject and educate people a little bit more about the opportunities out there.
And a lot of it really comes down to who you know, doesn't it? And it's not that you have to know somebody who does it, but you do have to get to know people who do it, who are experts. And that's really the key, isn't it?
Absolutely. And portion is, and of course, there is, it's a deal. Like, of course, everybody has to do their own due diligence and evaluation of that deal as well, understanding how to look at, like, a T3, T12, like the rentals over the, projection, what could be certain, challenge. So you have to really understand the process. It's the same when you're buying a house, right? You have to do your inspection, you have to do your due diligence, you have to assess the potential, and you have to really understand the market. Are there, are there new apartment complexes around? What's the competition? Is the rent, what's the rent rate? What is going up? So a lot of, details and learning, but it is an amazing opportunity, and definitely a suggestion for people who want to look at, at multifamily, maybe instead of looking at the duplex, think about it a little bit bigger, educate yourself a little bit about other opportunities out there as well.
Yeah, there's more than what people think. And I think it's great advice to be able to tell people, just, expand your horizons a little bit, educate yourself, connect with some people who are in that space and really learn about it, because it's a fantastic opportunity. There's a lot to it. You don't go into it lightly, and it's not like you're going to jump in and buy an apartment by yourself the first time. But, if you connect with the right people, you can learn a lot and really expand and diversify your portfolio.
Yeah. Not jumping quickly. I think the part is, really choose it's like with everything, like with every business, you want to choose your partners wisely.
Yeah. So, and you're not very busy. I mean, you're traveling, you're hosting a multifamily thing, you've got your business, but you're also a writer too.
Yes, I am excited. Thank you for bringing that up. I'm very excited. I'm part of a book launch in April, talking about successful women, business owners who are immigrants, who came to that country, built their business, and their stories. So very motivational, very excited about that. And it's also all for a good cause. It's really contributing to a nonprofit which is trying to fight human trafficking, which we know is a big challenge. So I'm very excited to be part of that launch and appreciate it. And I think the same for you, right? You are in some good causes as well. I would love to hear more about that too.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that's important to me, and I think a lot of people like yourself, when you're able to have a lot of good fortune through hard work, you want to do something to be able to give back to people and improve the communities that we live in. And so, yeah, we're going to be launching something in the next few weeks here. Maybe by the time we release this podcast, it will be released. But it's called the Give Network, and we're bringing together real estate professionals, mortgage professionals into a network where those folks are committing to giving back to their clients through closing cost assistance to try to promote homeownership, and then also a simultaneous donation to a charity that their clients get to choose, so that we can also at the same time strengthen the communities that we live in. So yeah, we're pretty excited about that too. Hopefully we can make a big impact.
I love that. I love that. And I think, if we're all taking, that old concept, if we accomplish something and then choosing our nonprofits or, where we can do good, that's an amazing cause. And I think it's a roller coaster effect of positive energy. I feel so strongly wedded to really attract positive energy and trying to really, keep negative energy out of my life as much as possible.
For sure. Well, if someone's been listening or watching to us today and they like what they're hearing from you and want to get in touch with you, what is the best way for them to do that?
Well, the best part really would be to Google me and find me on Instagram and Facebook and or LinkedIn. And it's under my name, Barbara, and then Heil-Sonneck, Heil-Sonneck. So the good and the bad thing, there's only one. So it's easy to find me, or under my company, Design to Sell, Design and the number 2, Sell, SELL. We are located in Atlanta, beautiful Georgia. And would love to connect, would like to hear feedback. And thank you so much for inviting me. Hope there were some nuggets, and always there to answer any additional questions.
Well, we really appreciate you taking the time out of your busy schedule and spending it with us. So everybody knows the Southern Belle here. Barbara is ready to hear from you. So if you do want to speak to Barbara, Google her. She is the one and only. And that's a nice thing to have, because I'm not the one and only in my world. But anyhow, thank you again for joining us, Barbara.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me. Have a good day.
You as well. And all of you that, again, are watching us on YouTube, make sure that you subscribe and hit that notify button. And on your favorite podcast platforms, do us a favor and give us a 5-star rating. We'd really appreciate it. And then keep an eye out. We'll have another episode of the Uncensored Real Estate Podcast.
Thanks for joining us. And please remember to go and subscribe, like, share, all that cool stuff to help us grow. And come back to listen to our next episode. Until then, go out and live life uncensored.
Thanks for listening to the Uncensored Real Estate Podcast. Don't forget to help us out and subscribe. Follow and give us a 5-star rating on your favorite podcast platform. And check us out on YouTube for the full video podcast. If you want more information on any of the topics discussed on today's episode, email us at uncensoredrealestatepodcast@gmail.com or give the Cardenas Mortgage Team a call at 480-331-4684.